Charismatic.
Visionary.
Open to experience.
Successful.
Arrogant.
Creative.
Perfectionist.
Controlling.
Risk taker.
Driven.
Persuasive.
Abrasive.
Focused.
Above all, Steve Jobs valued making a difference. He believed that the most important thing in life was to do something that mattered. Jobs is quoted as saying, "I want to put a ding in the universe." This shows that one of his terminal values was achievement. Terminal values, by definition, are values that are a desired goal or end state of existence. Instrumental values, on the other hand, are values that shape the acceptable behaviors that can be used to achieve a terminal goal. Among Jobs' instrumental values were ambition, open-mindedness, simplicity, rationality, competence, intelligence, control, loyalty, and imagination. These instrumental values link directly to Jobs' attitudes and behaviors, which will be discussed next. Steve Jobs possessed a variety of attitudes that influenced his work throughout his life. He believed that his employees needed to have a broad range of understanding so they could build the best products. During his 1982 speech to the Academy of Achievements, Steve Jobs said, "The key to being intelligent is to get as many different and wide-ranging experiences as possible." This attitude was shaped largely by Jobs' own array of unique experiences. For example, Jobs enrolled at Reed College in Portland, Oregon, but dropped out after only 6 months. He spent the following 18 months dropping in on creative classes. Jobs accredited his love for typography, which helped make the design of Apple products so successful, to one calligraphy course he dropped in on. Another unique experience that Jobs had was when he left Atari, where he had been working as a video game designer, to find spiritual enlightenment in India. There, Jobs traveled the continent, experimented with psychedelic drugs such as LSD, which Jobs called one of the 2 or 3 most important things he had done in his life, and became a serious practitioner of Zen Buddhism. Both his experiences of dropping out of college and traveling to India are examples of unique moments in Jobs' life that helped him become more open-minded and believe in the importance of out-of-the-box thinking. Perhaps this was even the catalyst for one of the most successful marketing strategies in history, Apple's Think Different campaign. Not only did Jobs have an attitude of preferring open-mindedness thinking, but he also had a positive attitude toward creativity. During his time at Pixar, Jobs strongly encouraged creativity among his employees. He built an entire new office building to house Pixar, which included only 2 centrally located restrooms. This strategic placement of restrooms meant that employees would have more interaction with each other, which would breed spontaneous brainstorms and motivate new ideas. Steve Jobs is remembered for being incredibly focused and driven. Jobs has often been called a visionary, but the key to his success was his ability to articulate his vision and the high degree of clarity it had. In Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs, he describes him as an extremely detail-oriented man, obsessed with the design of the case for Apple II, the shape of the windows on the Mac's GUI, the color of iMac Blue in its first ad campaign, the machine having a CD slot, not a tray, and the lighting at its launch keynotes, which shows how much Jobs truly cared about even the smallest of details. At another point in Isaacson's biography, he describes Jobs' decision to revise the original iPhone's design at the last minute, simply because Jobs was not completely content with it, telling his design chief, Jony Ive, "I didn't sleep last night because I realized that I just don't love it." Steve Jobs never strayed from his vision, but rather he stayed intensely focused and worked diligently to achieve it. Though Jobs believed in his vision and had a great sense of purpose, at times he stepped over the line between confidence and arrogance. Jobs was very critical of his employees, never failing to tell them when they made a mistake. According to Jobs, sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It is best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations. But at times, Jobs' management style and his treatment of employees was perceived as overly abrasive and stubborn. His egotistical behavior and his tendency to micromanage his coworkers ultimately led to a power struggle with the board of Apple, which caused Jobs' exile from the company in 1984. When Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, after Apple bought out Next, Jobs proved that his autocratic ways were still very apparent in his management style. When Fortune magazine profiled America's toughest bosses, it said that Jobs' inhuman drive for perfection can burn out even the most motivated workers, detailing accounts of Jobs' verbal assaults on staff, complete with anger and foul language. Fortune named Jobs as one of Silicon Valley's leading egomaniacs.
Steve Jobs had a personality that allowed him to be open to new experiences. When studying at Reed College, he learned about the Indian guru Nem Karoli Baba. In the early 70s, after learning about the guru, Jobs and his friend Dan Koski decided to travel to India in hopes of meeting the man they had learned about. Unfortunately for Steve, they arrived a little too late and Nem had already passed away.
Ah, India. It's a beautiful place, but I was really looking forward to seeing the guru. This is bumming me out. But I'm open to new experiences, so I enjoy being here.
Hello. For today's discussion, we will be talking about some of the key attributes of a leader. A leader is an advocate for change and new approaches to problems. Here we have one of the most profound leaders of the technological age, Steve Jobs.
Hello, thank you, Nick. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. So today I'm just going to ask you some basic questions describing your leadership. So the first question I have for you is, what distinguishes you as a leader from a simple manager?
Well, I would say that leaders and managers are two very different breeds, and I definitely fall into the leader category more than I fall into the manager category. I enjoy solitary work. I like to work alone. I promote intense work relationships, as evidenced by when I started up Apple in my garage with Steve Wozniak. We really worked hard and were really just intense about realizing the vision that I had for Apple. And I'm high risk, high reward. You know, I dropped out of college. I dropped everything and kind of just put my whole life into Apple. And my stock went through the roof after I, figuratively and literally, after Apple kind of got on its feet. And the reward, the payoff was huge. And not that I do it for the money or anything like that, but I just always have had that ambition and that drive. Whereas managers tend to be more safe and kind of do what they're told type thing. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm ambitious and I'm imaginative, and that's what drives my work. And really, I have a goal, an abstract goal in mind, you know, for the future of technology and Apple, and that's what drives my work and my passion. Versus managers, you know, work more out of necessity. They only do things that need to get done, or they do things because they need to get done, I should say.
Mm-hmm. So my next question for you is, how would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style, I would say I'm a very democratic leader. I like to collaborate with my employees. I encourage them to think outside of the box because eventually that will prove to produce the better product, you know, for lack of better terms. Really, if people are just, you know, not thinking on their own or not being an individual, they won't eventually produce anything worthwhile for you. So.
Of course. So which of the Hersey and Blanchard 4 leadership styles has worked best for you in Apple?
I believe that when Apple was first starting up, when I was in the garage, when I was trying to get my my friends to help me with this crazy new business venture, I think at first I was a participating leader. I collaborated with my employees all the time, and the people that were around me were at first unwilling to help me, but they were very able. They were very gifted. Wozniak is a great example of this. He was very gifted with computers and technology, and I really needed his technical skills to, you know, kind of have a nice marriage with my abstract thinking and my you know, pie in the sky type dreams. So at first, when Apple was first starting, I was a participating leader, and then as Apple progressed and became huge, I'd say I turned into a delegating leader because delegating leaders more or less empower their employees to make their own decisions and make their own, you know, forge their own path. I'm more or less there as a guide, because the employees that I had as I transformed into a delegating leader were willing and able. They were very gifted and they were very willing to promote Apple's brand.
Of course. So how would you describe yourself? Would you describe yourself as a transformational leader, a charismatic leader, or an authentic leader?
I would describe myself as a transformational and a charismatic leader, both at the same time. I'm transformational because I have ideas. I'm innovative. I want to see the future of technology now. I'm charismatic because I have a specific vision, and it's not always attainable or easily attainable right in front of you. And I persuade my employees and my followers to come to my side no matter how impossible it may seem to attain that goal. And actually, in 1980, a couple of my employees even they realized that I was so good at being a charismatic leader that they coined a term called the reality distortion field.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, what they're saying is I'm distorting reality for these people to kind of almost even trick them into following me and persuade them that's how good I am at getting people to get on my side. Not to toot my own horn.
Mm-hmm. Of course. So would you say your employees trust you?
Do they trust me? I'm very controversial and I'm very abrasive and difficult to work with a lot of times, but I think that my employees understand that what I do for a good cause, and I do it because I eventually want to see technology and Apple on top and leader in simplicity and user friendliness and a lot of other values that maybe aren't as attainable as they might seem.
So my last question for you, Steve, is where do you fall exactly on the leadership grid, would you say?
Where do I fall on the leadership grid? Well, that's weird. We have one here. I would say that at my very worst, I'm a 9-1. I'm very concerned with production, and I could care less how my employees feel,
Okay.
emotionally or ethically or anything like that. I just want the product, and I want it now. At my very best, I'd probably fall right in the middle at a 5-5. You're really never going to see me, always being a complete people person. That's just the way that my personality is, and I think sometimes I can back off a little bit and give some people breathing space, but usually I fall somewhere around 9-3, 9-2, 8-2, somewhere in that area. That's where I fall on the leadership grid.
Well, thank you, Steve, for coming out today.
No,
Very
thank you, Nick.
appreciate your time.
I appreciate my time too.
All right, thank you. Hi, my name is Larry Kenyon, and I'm an engineer at Apple. Today I'm just going to talk about why I think personally Steve Jobs is one of the most influential leaders in the company. Steve was able to push all his employees beyond their limits. This was called his reality distortion field. And I personally had experience with this reality distortion field. One day, Steve Jobs came into my office to discuss the boot up time for the Macintosh computer. Cut it.
Larry,
Thanks, Steve.
I'd like to discuss with you the Macintosh boot up time.
Oh yeah, well,
I'm very disappointed in the times. Is there any way we could make them better?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think we can.
If shaving off 10 seconds from the boot up time would save a person's life, could you do it?
I mean, maybe.
Maybe. Look at it this way. If it takes 10 extra seconds to boot up each Macintosh computer, and 5 million people are using our computers, and they do it 365 days a year, that equals roughly 300 million hours or 100 million lifetimes per year.
You know what?
Shave 10 seconds off the boot up time, Larry.
I think I can do that. So it was after this discussion with Steve Jobs that I became extremely driven to do what he asked. I worked on the project for an additional 2 weeks, and I ended up decreasing the boot time by 28 seconds, making it a lot faster than what he wanted. Because of what he explained to me, it motivated me and made me want to contribute more to the company and make Apple a more successful piece of technology.
Steve Jobs was called a visionary, a leader, and an entrepreneur. But if there is one thing that Jobs was not, it was a philanthropist. During his time at Apple, Jobs was heavily criticized for his lack of philanthropy. Jobs was a very private individual,
and it was difficult to say the extent of his personal moral structure or what relationship it had to do with his business endeavors. On a personal level, Jobs had been linked to donations to fight AIDS and to help fund children's medical centers in Stanford. His private character and attitudes sets him apart from the other multi-billionaires who prefer to discuss their philanthropic involvements publicly. Because Jobs preferred to keep his personal matters discreet, even going so far as to decline talking about his philanthropic efforts to his biographer, Walter Isaacson. While there is some gray area when it comes to Jobs' personal charity contributions, it remains clear that Apple did suffer from the lack of humanitarian involvement while Jobs was in charge. Servant leadership is a strong characteristic of many leaders. However, Steve Jobs was a unique leader in that he was an exceptionally poor servant leader. Some particular characteristics illustrated in an article by Larry S. Spears that Jobs struggled with include awareness, empathy, and listening. Jobs lacked the social tact to understand how his employers were feeling at any given time, jeopardizing relationships with employees and coworkers, including Steve Wozniak. For his lack of empathy, Jobs was particularly poor at empathizing with his coworkers. His attitude was that if you did not understand his vision, you were not really worth his time. Demonstrating his lack of listening, Jobs was convinced that he was always right and had little patience for business plans that were not his own. As previously discussed, Jobs' leadership style was ruthless, abrasive, and borderline abusive. He did not practice ethical behavior, largely due to his own individual influences. He valued things like achievement, success, and ambition too much, and things like honesty, politeness, and self-control too little.
Alright, here we are at the Bayshore Apple Store. We had a better plan, but they wouldn't let us in. Gil will zoom in. Yeah, there's some people playing up. Wow, that is great quality. Look at that. There's some geeks or whatever you call them. Geniuses. Yeah, the geniuses.
For charging.
Alright, what do you guys think?
Sucks.
Bummed out. We're bummed out. Oh, here I go. Say hi, Stacy. This is HD as can be. Wow.